everybody paints a picture in their minds of handsome and smart and this and that, but they don't realize the details. Did his grandfather have any heart issues? Did his brother have any cancer? Are his earlobes attached or connected?
Family building is supposed to be easy, and it's a shock when it's not. The roller coaster ride of infertility can be a mix of emotions and conflicting advice along the way. As a reproductive endocrinologist and former fertility patient, I not only help patients build families every day, but I remember what the ride was like for me. Hang on tight as we learn together from experts and share stories from infertility warriors with compassion. I'm your host, Dr. Lora Shahine, and this is Baby or Bust. You may know her as Gigi, but her full name is Golnesa Gharachedaghi, and for 9 seasons, she was one of the stars of Bravo reality TV series The Shahs of Sunset, a show about a family of Persian Americans pursuing life, love, and happiness in Beverly Hills. For Gigi, part of that path to happiness has been her determination to become a mom. She has been vocal about her fertility struggles and the challenges she has overcome on her journey to motherhood. Her experiences, her insights, I think they can help you too. So I struggled with infertility, and I am an IVF doctor up here in Seattle. And so a lot of what you've talked about really resonated with me. And I just really appreciate your being willing to do this, because it's kind of a part of my giving back to our fertility community. And so I just wanted you to know, just watched you on the Shahs of Sunset, and I've listened to your Genuinely Gigi podcast, and you strike me as a very goal-oriented person overcoming challenges. And so I imagine you felt a little bit of the struggles too, of just kind of like, this should just happen.
Yeah, there's no picture to paint to describe the word struggle. It's so unique and so different for all of us. It's all a struggle, and it's not really painted in one portrait. It's just so unique to everybody. So I think what you're doing is the important aspect of all of this, is getting everyone to sort of be able to tell their story, hear a different story, connect to a new story, and put the more words out there.
So again, listening to you share your stories, you are a fierce infertility warrior. Looking back on it, what is the one thing that you wish you knew before you started your fertility journey?
Wow, I wish something like this could have been taught in school. The way the female reproductive system really works, and age and our eggs, we aren't taught that. I think it just fast forwards to the penis goes in the vagina, sperm comes out, the sperm swims to the egg, and then you're pregnant. That is sort of, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, right? So that was the only form of knowledge I had to grow up with. I really don't know what these new age kids have. It sort of worries me because as you see, our government is working in reverse. So who knows what our kids are going to learn? And that's the one thing that happened even before I did the full completion of the full IVF process from retrieval to pregnancy. As soon as I did egg retrieval and I got all of that knowledge from my fertility doctor, I messaged every single one of my girlfriends. I told all of my close guy friends. I was like, you might be shooting blanks, go get checked. I told all my girlfriends, just because you get a period doesn't mean anything, go get checked. I probably got about 10 of my girlfriends to go freeze their eggs, which I wish someone told me, freeze your eggs, Golnesa. When you turn 18, go get all those fresh babies out of there.
Yeah, just that education piece. By focusing so much on contraception for so long, we're sort of lulled into the assumption that we're in control of our fertility. And so then when we do want to get pregnant and it doesn't happen easily, it can be a real shock for a lot of people. Was that your case?
No, I never had a problem getting pregnant. Fortunately and unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because I made a lot of childhood mistakes. I made a lot of under the influence mistakes as a young adult that ended me in a situation where I'd had multiple pregnancies that I had to, terminate. I had 7 total pregnancies and I have 1 child. 5 of them unplanned. The one pregnancy I had was my first IVF pregnancy, which they called it a random fluke that it turned ectopic and ruptured, and I lost both my fallopian tubes. But 3 months later, I was like, stick that little sucker back in me. Because this was the goal. This is the job. This is what I was here to do. And until someone told me it can never happen to you, I was just going to keep losing body parts.
Oh, I really appreciate your sharing your ectopic pregnancy story. You did it on the Shahs of Sunset, and you talked about it in your own podcast. It's something that I don't think people understand a lot. Even on the show, it talked about how you had a miscarriage and just you're educating. Language is so important. So I appreciate that when anyone asks you about it, you're very quick to say, hey, actually, it wasn't a miscarriage. It's an ectopic pregnancy. Yes, it wasn't a pregnancy that could continue, and you're so good at explaining that because it's so misunderstood. I mean, even, and you just mentioned it, in the politics and what's going on right now, people assume that a pregnancy that is outside of the uterus, that's what an ectopic pregnancy is, it's almost always in the tubes. People have this assumption that you can save it. And here you were in this situation. It was such a highly desired pregnancy. And I mean, any doctor, anybody would have done anything that they could to have helped you. And there's just nothing that could help you. And in the meantime, you lost both fallopian tubes. What was that like?
Wow. I think I didn't really mourn that concept of what it means. I have never been the type that could dwell. I think it's been worked against me in many ways that I just don't hold grudges. I get over things so fast. It's a flaw in a lot of ways, but I'm not able to dwell. And I realized that that was the process. And the only other outcome was I was going to die if I didn't. Death or remove the fallopian tubes. And the thing is, this is the hard part. And every time I tell this story, I never really get emotional. I'm very numb. My disposition is very reserved. Doesn't mean I'm not full of emotion. So I don't want people to think that I'm just this cold-hearted bitch that just says things so freely and then everyone else cries. But the one thing that for me was the turning point that I'm like, no problem, take my fallopian tubes, was when, I'm sure it works the same where you are, but the state sends someone in and they say, you need to sign this documentation that you are aware that you are sterilizing yourself. And I was a little loopy at the time that this was happening because I'm in OR. So I'm a little loopy. I'm shocked. I'm nervous. I don't know what's going on. And I look to my doctor, and my surgeon is also my gynecologist. So she left her daughter's graduation, rushed to the ER, and she looked at me and she said, you can still get pregnant with IVF. I said, take the fucking tubes. Take the fucking tubes.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So I'm a logical person, and it's very hard to talk about these stories because I feel like sometimes I owe it to women to be more emotional, and I am emotional. It's a very hard thing to deal with, but my logic sort of prevails. So when you said I seem like one of those goal-oriented people, it's what the logic shows to be.
It's a coping mechanism that I see in a lot of my patients is very much to compartmentalize, just kind of like, okay, this is that step. I needed to complete that, and now on to the next step. And everybody's different.
I did do a lot of the blame game. I was trying to find where to point the finger because every single doctor involved, mind you, I had 4 doctors on my case because I have an autoimmune disease. And for 13 years, I've been under extreme forms of medication, methotrexate weekly, infusions monthly. I'm always with a needle in my hand injecting some part of my body.
Rheumatoid arthritis, yes. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Because I have an autoimmune disease, because I am at that time was 38 years old, I already had a high-risk doctor, I had my rheumatologist, and now I have my fertility doctor, and then we have my gynecologist. All 4 of these doctors were on the line together trying to make sense of how an IVF pregnancy turned ectopic. Because I have an autoimmune disease, which is an inflammatory disease, they believe my fallopian tubes could have been working as a suction.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it might have. They don't know. There was no other way they could have figured it out. I was pregnant. I was doing doctor visits. I was going in for my ultrasounds. And then,
Yeah.
boom, we can't find it. It's nowhere. We can't see it.
How did you know or decide when to become a mom? I've heard you talk about you just always knew that that was something that was really important to you. What kind of was like, okay, this is the year, this is the month. What kind of helped you with that decision?
I think it had a lot to do with my medical health and as well as my psychological well-being. I needed to be mentally prepared. I had always wanted children, and wanting it doesn't mean you're prepared for it. I needed to live my life. I needed to be as selfish as I wanted to be, because I knew that when that day came, I could never be selfish again. And I was okay with that circumstance, but I needed to live that out. So psychologically, I needed to do that. I needed to get over my past traumas from childhood. I needed to understand why I was having a child, what my point was in having a child. And then I needed to hear from my doctor that my body's healthy. And I had worked for 9 years trying to get my body to a place of remission, where I was for almost a year. The pregnancy, again, they speculate, the ectopic rupture sent my body into an extreme shock. That while I was 4.5 months pregnant with my son Elijah, I had to begin infusions again. So after I had my son, my doctor was saying, it's as if your body has never been treated by any medication ever. So I started back at zero. And I'm still there. It's a process. It's just no regrets. No regrets.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, many of my patients are waiting to meet that person, that partner.
I know
right?
where this is going.
Well, and part of that question was, you did this without not on a traditional path, in big air quotes. And I'd love to hear about your journey and deciding to become a single mom by choice.
I always wonder what crosses people's minds when they first hear someone say single mom by choice. I wonder if they think, does that mean she left the guy and she thinks it was her choice? I used a sperm donor. I always tease about it, and I said it was very similar to like when you go to the Build-A-Bear workshop and you get to make your teddy bear. This is something, again, I mentioned I went through a lot of psychological searching and understanding of myself. This is not something that is meant for everyone, and I'm not putting myself at a higher or better category. It has nothing to do with that. It's solely with what you are inside, who you are as a person. Either can be okay with raising a child by yourself, knowing that maybe you have family or friends that can help. Or if you don't, knowing that you're fine if you don't have family or friends that help. It's just knowing what you're capable of, and it takes a lot of soul searching. And I knew that, you know what, I'm not a relationship type of person. I dispose of men every couple months. I was married and I divorced after 7 weeks. I knew that my goal was not relationship intimacy. It was, I really want to do what I can to raise a human being, and I don't need someone else being involved in that right now.
What were you looking for? How did you choose?
It is the hardest thing in the world to pick a sperm donor for your child. I wouldn't put that type of pressure on anybody because it is so difficult. Everybody paints a picture in their minds of handsome and smart and this and that, but they don't realize the details. Did his grandfather have any heart issues? Did his brother have any cancer? Did his aunt are his earlobes attached or connected? Is the eyebrow arched or straight? The file is like 50 pages deep.
Wow.
It's so detailed. And one of my terms, my mandatory term, was I needed a photo. Okay. And most photos, they are childhood photos, about 10 years old, 5 years old. A few of them were childhood and adult. Okay, yeah, you see a photo, you're like, okay, this one looks, fine. Let me read about their genetics. And then you start realizing no, no, no. Let me first read the genetics and then let me focus on the photo, because what their face looks like is not necessarily what the child is ever going to come out. I want to know what the grandparents were like. I want to know what their education was. I want to know what their personality types were like. So I was paying a lot to get the very detailed donors.
It's a deep responsibility. It's like a responsibility to Elijah or to the child that you're trying to bring into this world. And it's a deeper responsibility or stress than if you just met someone and fell in love. Like that's that easy, or you just accidentally conceived without assistance. It's almost that responsibility. And all my patients go about it in different ways. I've had some patients that have their friends over for cocktails and they're kind of going through online together. And I've had other people who are having their moms and dads kind of help them figure this out together.
It is an important decision. It's a lifelong decision. You're not dating this guy, and picking a sperm donor, you have to understand this is not about you and what you find good about this guy. Is this what I need to create a good, healthy, smart, well-rounded, physically, genetically child, human? Mm-hmm. It's very deep. It's a very deep situation.
There is no anonymity, right? Like just the way genetics and 23andMe and finding things, was that something that you considered, whether this sperm donor would be contacted in the future, or how did you think about that?
I requested completely anonymous. I don't want any of that. I have always said to myself, depending on my child's mental, emotional, and psychological capacity, of course, I always thought when I felt like he was of an age, or if he asks me, I would simply hand him the file. And whatever he wants to do with that file, I support it through and through until the day it starts mentally, emotionally, or psychologically affecting him, where I need to say, hey, let's figure this out. What is it that you're actually looking for? Because I can't imagine it being easy. He's still young. He's 2. But pretty soon he's going to be in school, and there's Father's Day, and kids make little cards at school for Father's Day. And every cartoon is a mommy and a daddy, which don't get me started on that right there. It's all of his dinos that he picks up. This is daddy dino. This is mommy dino. So whether I choose to or not, I live in a society that has implanted that as the norm already in my 2-year-old's mind. So I know that the questions are inevitable, that they will come. I just hope that I can shape him up to that point, shape him in a way that he feels safe to talk to me and hear the answers.
Some of the families that have inspired me the most are the ones that really emphasize how much that child was wanted and loved and here because this person helped bring them into this world. And more of a gift. I mean, there's beautiful children's books about sperm donation, egg donation, surrogacy, and ways to talk about it at a young age, just all from love, because that's what makes a family. It's not the mommy and daddy dino, in my humble personal opinion.
Yeah. It's, to each their own. I think when it comes to this topic, to any child coming from a donor, it should be very clear that the parent must have really loved and wanted them so much to go to those levels, right? But that is also a developed mind that can have that understanding. It's just harder when you think about a 4 or 5-year-old. We make decisions. Again, I went through it psychologically. I got prepared for that. Medically, I got prepared. And I said, you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready to take on the responsibilities of raising another human being. Infertility
can still be so taboo, so shameful in certain communities or in certain families. And you have done such an amazing job of just sharing so much all along the way. How's that been?
I don't feel like I had a choice. I don't feel like I signed up for anything less than this. When I realized that I actually have a platform that I can do some good with, I became just abundantly vocal about my issues. And I think it just sprung on very fast, where people were probably calling me fake because I came out and admitted that I'm legally deaf. I came out and admitted that I'm suffering with an autoimmune disease, that I have issues from my past. I have anger issues. I need help. So all of these things just started pouring out and pouring out. And when they did, it was so nice, because whether people were criticizing me or supporting me, I was finally able to be honest with myself. And that's huge. Listen, this Roe versus Wade thing that just happened, nauseating. I think that I lost maybe 4,000 followers because of posting. And I wasn't really posting anything too harsh, too extreme, because I do believe everyone is entitled to their own beliefs. You just can't dictate other people's, decisions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it just goes to show we live in a world that is lacking so much knowledge, so much misinformation. When I had my unfortunate and mistaken pregnancies, one of them was a miscarriage. At that time, I was just too young, maybe 18, 19 years old, too young to think anything about it. I was excited because I'm like, I just saved like $500 from having to go get an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand what the fuck is going on in my body that had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have, and my mother is a very progressive woman, very open, very educated. It was as if that amount of knowledge and education ceased to exist to say, let's go find out why you had a miscarriage. What was going on? Maybe something could have been detected. Now I know I was also under the influence heavily in those years, and I was mistreating my body tremendously. So when I had the ectopic pregnancy, I thought 4 abortions and 1 miscarriage, which was supposed to be an abortion. Is this the punishment for treating my body like nothing? Like, it's okay. It's just a couple $100 and it's gone tomorrow. There's not enough understanding out there on what's going on with our bodies. What do we do? Contraception, it's important to understand what contraception is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lack of information out there.
I just so appreciate your sharing that exact sentiment, because I have patients that won't even tell me that they've had an abortion until we've really been connecting and really build up a trust. And the reason they don't tell me is because they don't want me to bring it up in front of their partner. They don't want it in their medical chart. They're deeply ashamed, and they're worried that that is the reason that they are infertile. Like, that is why they are in my office needing help and assistance. And I just so appreciate being able to talk about it, because 1 in 4 women have had an abortion, and it does not impact your fertility. And I just want to shout that from the rooftops to help people. Yes, there are rare cases where people have, infections or something like that, but that is the absolute rarity. And I just already, infertility already feels like you've done something wrong, and certainly the media can sometimes put that out there. And so to have this sort of layering and worry that you somehow have put yourself in that space, I just really appreciate your speaking to that.
I just felt like it was a bad juju. I knew that I could have like 100 abortions and I'll be fine. It has nothing to do with it. And I saw a little funny meme today on Instagram. It says, people from LA blame everything on bad juju. And it's so true. We blame everything on bad juju over here.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't meant for me. And I see my son every day, and I have his doctors telling me how advanced he is and how he's off the charts intellectually. And I see him, and he's handsome, and he's giving, and he's compassionate, and he's aware. And I realized all of that was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. It was all supposed to happen just the way it was. And I'm okay with it. It's still interesting not having fallopian tubes, because I'm about to be 41 years old. My life isn't over. It's just beginning. And who knows if one day I change my views and I would want to be in an intimate relationship and with a partner. And maybe this information is traumatizing for him, that I don't have fallopian tubes. I doubt I would date someone that ignorant, to be honest with you. But I don't think I would. But you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just, I don't think I've processed what it means to be completely sterile.
There's so many people that come to me and they're like, oh, why did I have an ectopic pregnancy? Like, what did I do wrong? And they'll go on Dr. Google and they'll be reading like, oh, it must be a sexually transmitted infection or promiscuous. I'm like, no. It's not that at all. Like, it can honestly just happen. It could be endometriosis. It could be truly bad luck. It could be, all of these things. And well, there are a lot of people that are going to be listening to this who are dealing with their own fertility struggles, family members, friends of people that are trying to learn about this process. Anything that you would like to share with this community? Any thoughts, lessons learned?
The more podcasts that I do and the more people that I talk to about the fertility and IVF process and the infertility process, the more I realize how affected people actually get from this process, because I was completely unaware. Like I said, I'm more of a logical person, less emotion. So when I started speaking to these people and looking at the crowd and seeing how affected the crowd was, because each of them was going through these processes, I think that the main thing I would say to everybody is whatever the outcome is, that's what it's supposed to be. And it's okay. And just accept the process, embrace it, because I think everything lines up for us one way or the other. Whether you do have, fertility issues, you're going through IVF, you're having hard times, getting an egg or making a healthy embryo, it's okay. It happens. I treated my body like shit. And I started drugs when I was 11, and I used to drink bottles of vodka every night while popping oxy. And I've had a bunch of pregnancies, and I have an autoimmune disease, on chemo for all these years, and I still ended up being okay. All the worry and fear that I had all those years of my life, that when the day comes, maybe I won't be able to get pregnant, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. Even when I lost that pregnancy and my fallopian tubes, the worry wasn't worth it, because I knew the process wasn't over yet. So stay strong, embrace the process. And you guys, we're so hormonal when we go through this shit. I yelled at my mom for not realizing I was watching Beyonce on TV. Add that with bad news sometimes, it's a double whammy hit for us. So be patient with us. We go through it. Just be patient and be strong.
Gigi, I have absolutely enjoyed talking to you and learning from you. How can we find you?
Well, people could find me on Instagram, first and foremost, Gigi_Golnesa. I just launched a sex toy line. So
love it.
Hey, ladies. That is Intimately Gigi. I have a cool podcast show, and I like to talk about controversial topics. I like to talk about topics people are afraid to talk about. Genuinely Gigi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here today. I truly enjoyed that conversation with Gigi. Just listening to all of the obstacles and challenges that she has overcome on her path to being a parent. No matter where you are on your fertility journey or where you are in life, there's likely something in her incredible story that resonates with you. Maybe it's not a history of abortions or a chronic medical illness or deciding to become a single mom by choice, but the determination, the worries of past choices impacting your future is something that can resonate with all of us. I'm leaving today feeling inspired, and I hope you are too. I'm your host, Dr. Lora Shahine, and this is Baby or Bust. If you like this episode, let us know. Give us a 5-star review and follow the show wherever you listen to your podcast. Baby or Bust is produced by Mark Ramsey, Jamie Solis, and Greg Moga. Executive produced by Paul Anderson for Workhouse Media. Baby or Bust is a Mark Ramsey media production.